Hey, Tim.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Doing good. Wow, 2021. Unbelievable. Hey,
I
bud.
thought it would never come.
I just can't believe it. 2021. Goodness. Hey, bud. Good morning. Can you hear us, bud? It says you're unmuted. Okay. Bud, can you hear us? No, he's muted. $328 registered.
Wow.
That's the biggest event we've ever had. And we're not done yet.
No, I'm sure you'll get.
I got 25 here this morning.
Oh,
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we can hear you, bud. Yeah.
All right. I had to figure this out here.
Yeah.
You would think I'd be used to all this by now, but I connected a new thing onto my computer so that now it gives me like 4 different choices of what microphone and speakers I want to use. So I had to figure all that in.
No, I feel your pain. I have the same problem.
What do you have behind you there?
I have, I did a search one day for outrageous offices. And I found these pictures. Check this one out. This is a actual office in a cave.
Oh, I could do that. Oh, I'm there.
You talk about a bunker.
Give me a cave. I'm there, man. That's
Okay. And anyway, so this one is just a crazy office layout that just captured. Look at something out of The Hobbit, right?
Yeah, really.
These are all real. Yeah, these are all real. And there's some beautiful ones. I have one in. I think this one here is in Utah.
Yeah, I could do that one too.
Like, anyway, I just change it up. Zoom allows you to do this so easily. It's like, okay, I didn't realize how easy it was.
Do you have to have that green screen behind you or anything?
No, you don't. You can't. I mean, you can use a green screen, but I just saved a bunch of JPEGs, and then see this little plus. I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on. There's a little plus sign. Hang on 1 minute. I'll share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
All right. See this little plus sign right here?
Okay.
You save any JPEG you want from anywhere and add image, and it opens it up and you find the JPEG you want. I don't have any on this one here. Let's see. Anyway, then you click open and it adds it to the library, and then you have your library of images and you click on the one you want.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize it was that simple. Tim has some funny ones. Tim Carney has some good ones. He had one. It was like, I think it was you, Tim, that had one. You were inside the Millennium Falcon, Star Wars.
Yeah. That's Star Trek. Let's see. Here's the Millennium Falcon.
It just caught me off guard. Like, that's a good one.
I'm on Emperor Palpatine's throne there. Course, the beach is always nice. Yeah, it's ridiculous how easy this is.
Yeah. Well, I just had to focus on it to figure it out. So let me send Christy a text. So Bud, let me tell you what we're doing. Currently, we have this annual summit meeting. Remember, we used to do them in January.
Yeah.
Then we paused, and now we're going back to it with I think, a much better strategy. And I think doing it virtually has really hit home. Currently, we have 328 people registered from all over the country, and Israel, France, England. It's pretty amazing. So it has really become quite a forum for idea. I mean, we could use this for almost anything. Zoom as a platform allows us to do so many things that we just couldn't do with a face-to-face. It doesn't replace the face-to-face, but it certainly has given us broad awareness to the consortium. So what we're doing here is we're going to set up these little calls, just do some interviews, capture it, and use those as part of our internal training acclimation. We want to use this as endorsements from our board, our work group chairs, our partners. There's about 60 people totally that we'll have. But it just goes back to explaining to freshmen that don't know this from Adam is why is this important to me, right? Anyway, that's the purpose of this call. So I sent Christy a note and she sends back OMW.
On my way.
Oh, thank you. I never knew that.
I guessed it.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Either that or out my window. I mean, that's
And so, Bud, I'm on another note. I'm on my wife and I this year are going to finally start getting our pictures in order, right? So I'm going through terabytes of pictures, and a ton of them are from, past functions. And I found a really good one. I should send it to you, of you and Jim Powers.
Good Lord, that's a name from the past.
Yeah, it was at the Penn State. Remember the Penn State workshop we did?
Yeah, that's where we developed the critical infrastructure program.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I did when I saw you, I thought of that. Jim Powers. That's funny.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him since he left. I had a phone call from him when I started with Pima. Then, after I left Homeland Security and went over to Pima,
right?
He wanted me to be or something like that. He was working for Rand at that point,
right?
And he wanted me to. That's not him. He wanted me to have a side job where I'd read through a bunch of plans and stuff like that, but it's just an area where I couldn't. I didn't want to risk. I had priorities, and obviously my job at Pima was. You can never tell when you're going to be pulled away from something, and if you end up with a disastrous flood or something like that, and you're spending weeks and months on the recovery side, you just can't have that second job.
Right. Well, I pulled up his LinkedIn profile. It says Director, Office of Homeland Security at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I think it's a little old.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's the last time I've really heard from him. I mean, super nice guy.
Yeah, a great guy. And anyway, I remember that. There was a couple of pictures, and I can't remember the young lady's name that worked for him. Very sharp.
Rasheen?
Rasheen, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, she's deep in the vaults at DHS as an intelligence person.
Yeah, I ran into her on a webinar last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I got to check. She may be signed up for this one for all I know. So,
I haven't talked to her in a long time. We
Yeah.
stay in contact, Facebook. I see that, she has 2 kids and all that.
Yeah.
Last I seen her was actually at her wedding. My wife and I went to her wedding, and now she's got like 2 kids, and she's uh, she still seems like she's still going strong with
Yeah.
yes.
Now that was one sharp cookie.
Mhm.
Yeah. Here's Christy.
I'm trying. Hang on a second.
All right, you're good. You're good.
It's telling me my video isn't on. Can you see me?
No, we can't.
Don't fit.
Not yet.
Okay, there.
There you go.
Okay. Yay.
There you go.
There it is.
Kids.
So, Christy, turn your computer. You're getting a lot of. Do you have a light you can turn on either on your right, on your left side? That's
Hang on a
better.
second.
There you go. A little better. The sunlight from the window is just watching you.
Oh, wow. I look great, don't I?
No, you're fine. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in my TV room.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Very good.
Where did you want me to be?
So thank you both for taking a few minutes. I was just telling Bud, we used to meet in January every year. Now we're going back to a January schedule again.
Yeah.
We have right now the largest registration for any meeting I've been a part of since the forum. We have 328 registered for this. We're expecting probably 500. And it's from all over the country and internationally. We have Canada, Israel, England. I lost track of those after that, but I think the virtual format is great. So one of the things we're doing, I told Bud, Christy, is we're going to get all of our board members, our working group members, our partners, to use for our internal training. Why is this thing important? How did you get interested in it? That kind of thing. And we're just going to capture that from a whole bunch, probably 60 people over time. And we want to start with our board members. So I threw some quick questions together. I wanted Tim to walk through this and just get feedback. It should be easy for you guys because you talk about this often. So, but anyway, I asked Tim to help me kind of pull it together. So Tim and I used to do a podcast together, if you remember, right?
I do remember.
WTOP Radio. So this is kind of our round 2 for that. So I always enjoy working with Tim. He's got a great appreciation for the consortium. He's been around since this was 2005, right? We started talking in 2005. So he's watched it grow. So I asked him to kind of come on and help us do the interviews and so forth. So that's kind of the purpose of what we're doing. So we have a couple scheduled this week and next week. And so it'll be both government and private sector, a lot of private sector, certainly. But the audience, I want you to think about the audience that we're going to be using this for are people that really don't know much about the consortium, right? Freshmen total. Okay. So not that we want to forget about everybody else, but weave that into your thought pattern as you're going through your questions. So totally ad hoc. We're going to edit this. So don't worry about,
I love that. We're going to edit this. That means we're going to be on some big screen somewhere, Bud.
You will all get a chance to look at it. The idea is we got to condense 2 hours or an hour down to, a few minutes, right? And maybe I'll let Tim worry about that. So
He usually does.
Good. My allergies are acting up. So when I stop and blow my nose, you can edit that out.
yeah, we
That'll work.
All right, Tim, take it away.
So Tom, I think what we should do is do all the questions from one person. That's going to make it easier to edit. Is that good with you guys?
Perfect.
Okay, so basically what it is Tom had sent you guys, and I don't know if you have them with you, but or if you had a chance to look them over, 4 pretty basic questions. So what we'll do is I'll just kind of walk each of you through those. And from that, we'll distill it down to the portions that we want for these videos that'll basically run in some of the breaks and be used in our other materials. So Bud, let me start with you. Hi, I'm Tim Carney. I'm the former publisher of Emergency Management Magazine. And with us today is Tom Moran, the Executive Director of the All Hazards Consortium, Bud Mertz, the Director of Westmoreland County Public Safety, and Christy Morris, who retired as Assistant Secretary of the West Virginia Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety. And we're here today to give people who might not be so big a consortium a little bit of background on what the consortium is, why it's so important, and how it works for all the various stakeholders who work together to improve resilience and infrastructure protection. So I'm going to ask Bud, how did you first hear about the All Hazards Consortium?
Well, I sort of go back to its beginning. And if you recall, shortly after the 9/11 attacks that we had, the nation was building its homeland security infrastructure. And at that point, I was assigned as the Deputy Director for the Pennsylvania Office of Homeland Security, or with the Office of the Governor. And so there was a lot going on back then because, basically, we always referred to it as you're building an airplane as you're flying it. Because, 2003, 2004, you're just really figuring out the mission and the goals of where you need to be in that position. And in the meantime, you're still having to do that position. So, being able to look out to other, I'm a very huge proponent of collaboration and talking to anybody and everybody to hear their sides of the story. So somehow we stumbled across the All Hazards Consortium. I believe it was an outreach that Tom himself made to Pennsylvania. Like, hey, I got this great idea, and why don't you guys, be part of it? We had a forum, and we, that was just the beginning. Their first forum, I believe it was, but that's where I became addicted to it. It was a great opportunity. At that point, we were just looking at what I call the greater area of the Washington, D.C. capital area, where it not only included those in the capital region, but it also included the surrounding states going through there at that point in time. But excellent opportunity when you went in there and you start meeting your counterparts, giving you the opportunity to meet your counterparts in Maryland and Virginia and Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. Then you all start talking to one another and collaborating and realizing that we're all in this together and we all have the same questions and maybe the same concerns. So it's a great opportunity to learn off of one another as well.
So, but was there a particular incident or event where you first kind of got the idea that the consortium might be able to really play a role in helping both government and industry come together and solve some real problems that were affecting operations?
Yeah, it really goes back to that first forum that we had. And it's like when this light bulb goes off and they said, oh my goodness, I have information that private industry wants, and private industry sitting there saying the same thing, to the point that, it's having that one-on-one opportunity in between government and private industry was that huge light bulb, that realization that, we both have information. And there's been walls that divided us from that, where they do their thing, we do our things. When you're looking at it at a state level, you're looking at it the fact that I'm making decisions that affect private industry, that maybe private industry has a better idea, a better recommendation on those. I'm making command decisions or executive level decisions based on the homeland security threat as well as all hazards. that affect them, but there's never a dialogue with them. And here we are, we're sitting in meetings with the executive level of private industries, and we're hearing their side, and it's like, wow, that's didn't realize that, or wow, that's good information to take back when we make those decisions. Having that collaborative format helped tremendously in moving forward in us building that airplane as we're flying.
So how do you see the consortium helping state and local and federal government coordinate better amongst themselves?
Well, I can say that I've been privileged to serve on the All Hazards Consortium board with a lot of my counterparts then at the state level at the time that put me in first name basis, put me in the fact that I know I could call their cell phone and have a dialogue with them, and that's huge. I at some point, thanks to the All Hazards Consortium, I could take the map of basically northeastern United States and point at a state and say, I got his phone number and I can call him, or I got her phone number and I can call her. And we had that one-on-one dialogue. We're all on the same level, and we're all on the same page. And that also extends out to the corporation and the private sector.
Yeah, from your viewpoint, how has the private sector embraced this? Have they been really forthcoming in the way that they work together with government now, as opposed to how it was kind of siloed off before?
I can say with the All Hazards Consortium being a player, yes, it's been a great opportunity. I've had a unique role in my life where I've gone from Homeland Security and building that plane, and went over into the emergency operations of the emergency management side of it, where you realize that, again, it goes back to those executive decisions that you have to make, that you realize that there are industries out there that are doing this these same issues on a professional level every day. So let's take, for example, we in 2011, when I was with PEMA, we had a horrendous set of presidentially declared disasters in Pennsylvania. We had Hurricane Irene affect the eastern side of Pennsylvania, and within 2-3 weeks later, we had the remnants of Tropical Storm Lee really rip apart central Pennsylvania, to the point that we had tens of thousands of people that were without, didn't have homes, food, electricity, all that stuff affected by that. But having the opportunity to talk with the power companies through the relationship that we've built through the All Hazard Consortium, allowed for us to operate a lot better. Having the opportunity to talk to the food distributors when we're talking about people that don't have meals because they don't have power, and how can we distribute food better, the MREs better to them, and better yet, how can we make them more resilient to open up their grocery stores so that people can go back to their a better way of, or their normal way of life, and get the food than having government hand them a meal in a box. That type of things have been a huge benefit to us, where we can rely on the expertise of the private industry to help us with problems. In the meantime, we at government can then help them with problems, such as getting their stores back open so that they can return to a normal life.
So there are a lot of organizations out there that want to help in this regard, but what makes the consortium different in terms of how government and industry work together? What's been the thing that you think creates that dynamic where this kind of cooperation has really worked?
Well, I would have to say the board that we've been working with since its conception has been phenomenal. The leadership with Tom Moran, I mean, this guy gets it, and it's amazing. I remember the first meeting that we had, the first forum that we had, myself and the Homeland Security Director went to, and the Homeland Security Director said, "Wow, this guy gets it. He understands where we really need to be." And I mean, Tom's phenomenal, and has been the driving force. He totally amazes me every meeting that we come to, where this whole new idea comes out, and like, wow, where'd he come up with that? But it's just he does get it. And you know, speaking of the Tom, I mean, he came from that private sector, and you know, he somehow used his talents to get into the government side and let government realize that the private sector is out there and we could work together.
Great, that's terrific, but I really appreciate taking the time to share that with us. Christy, in your role at West Virginia Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, how did you become aware of the consortium?
Well, as Deputy Secretary, and for a time I was Cabinet Secretary, I oversaw a lot of the responses that our state attended to in various emergencies. In the mid-2000s, I want to say 2005 maybe, we have an event in West Virginia that is a base jumping event off of our New River Gorge Bridge, and one of the largest steel arch spans in the world. And we had for the first time canceled it because of due to September 11th. And we were talking about security and how we could better secure it because a US highway goes across it. So we were in that meeting at that park, and a phone call was transferred to me, and it was Tom Moran. And he said, "You don't know me, but let me talk to you a minute." And I can't tell you why I took that call in the middle of that security meeting, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of a park, to a man that I'd never heard of before. But I did. And I listened to him, and I listened to this idea he had about bringing like-minded people together and together so we could speak. A combination of private sector, NGO, non-governmental organizations, and government. West Virginia is a small state. At that time, it was 1.8 million for the entire state. But we all know each other because we are so small, and we are able to do things as a unit that a lot of places aren't, and we are forgotten a lot of times. So I liked this idea of collaborating with our surrounding states because, as we all know, emergencies don't stop at man-made borders. They cross over, and I did not know my counterparts. And I thought that would be an interesting tool to have. My agency at that time oversaw all the state first responders, emergency management, National Guard, state police, fire marshal's office, and oh so many more who respond in a statewide emergency, local emergency, and the like. So I thought this idea was a great idea. And I'm so glad I listened to Tom. And we were on the phone for what I thought was going to be 15 or 20 minutes for a couple of hours. And I pulled in some people who had come with me to this security meeting to listen to him. And I'm so glad we did. That was such a a wonderful beginning and an eye opener, because West Virginia is small, but we're scrappy. And we've had to do a lot of things by ourselves. And it was exciting to think we could reach across and find some partners. So that was my first interaction with, my first thought was, who is this guy? But then I listened, and he was earnest and genuine. He did get it. He did know what he was talking about.
So, Christy, was there a particular incident after that that came up where you began to realize that, hey, having a group like this, where it's really pushing that cooperation, made a difference in terms of the way that you were able to operate in response to an incident or an event?
I can't point to a specific incident, but I will tell you that having the ability to call on my newfound friends across the border was fabulous. We, one of the first gatherings that we had, our consortium initially was predicated on FEMA Region 3 states, but it broadened to include North Carolina and others. So it truly became a cross-border regional approach, which then introduced us to other regions across the country who were like-minded. And I can tell you that as government, we have very strict rules about with whom we can speak in the private sector, with whom we can do business, with whom we can collaborate for very good reasons. Government can be political, and the effort is to keep politics out. And the consortium helped to smooth that way, allowed us to ask questions, talk with, communicate with those in the private sector who held keys to many of our dilemmas. They held the solutions, and allowed us the freedom to discuss, collaborate, brainstorm as to how we could help our citizens. So I can't say there was any one incident for me. I can say it was broad. It was a broad brush for me for us in West Virginia.
You know, Christy, you mentioned something there. It seems to me that one of the things that was a reality for me when I was getting into the space was that government's responsible for protecting critical infrastructure, but they don't own the critical infrastructure. And that having some way to bridge that divide where you can really communicate and collaborate effectively operationally with critical infrastructure owners, is that a game changer for government and the way that you can approach response and resilience?
Yes, it is, because critical infrastructure, you're exactly right, by and large is privately owned, and they have, there are limits to their boundary lines, there are limits to their allowing, they typically see government as regulators, and we're bossy if we try to tell them what to do sometimes. But I think it's helped to facilitate easier communication amongst and between us. Particularly, I think, as their partners learn about the consortium and how we can be an asset as opposed to someone to tell them what to do. I do believe that, yes.
Christy, let me ask you my favorite question. What should I have asked you about that I didn't ask you about?
Gosh, you know, I can remember I was lucky in that my job allowed me to oversee and pick the first people who should go to that first conference. It allowed me to say to our Homeland Security advisor, to our state police superintendent, to the head of our transportation department, to our emergency manager, to our fire marshal, to others who oversaw the statewide response to emergencies, and say, come with me. We're going to this conference, and you're going to meet your counterparts in other states who do what you do and who you can commiserate and problem solve together in your own groups. The law enforcement would sit together, the fire marshal's office would, the fire folks would sit together, emergency managers would sit together, public health folks would sit together. And there were breakout sessions within those groups that allowed names to be exchanged, phone numbers to be exchanged. I cannot say enough how many walls were broken down that first, second, third, those first few years when like people who were in like jobs were able to communicate. It was, and there was no egos were left at the door. There were true problem solving occurring in those breakout sessions. I know, because I wanted to know. I roamed the halls and went into as many as I could just to eavesdrop. It was fantastic, and that ability for the consortium to pull that together. There was another type a few years later in Gettysburg, and the same sort of walls breaking down occurred again. And from our small state, it was enlightening. We were dismissed as a small state more often than not, and we began to be included, and it was fabulous. So I have, that's my biggest takeaway from, I will forever be grateful to Tom Moran for reaching out to us and including us.
So let me back to you and ask you that same question. Is there something I should have asked you about that I didn't ask you about?
Well, it's hard to pass up that last statement that Christy made, because she hit it right on the head. You know, I think over the years, it's amazing. Like I said, I went from the state police to the Homeland Security, from Homeland Security to Pennsylvania Emergency Management. And when I retired from the state, I somehow took this job at the county level. But it all fits in. And Tom, you know, the quote, I'm forever grateful that Tom reached out to us. He keeps me active in the All Hazards Consortium, and there's just so much value in it that I see that it's just a no-brainer. Even at the local county level, being part of it is great. And he does a phenomenal job. He's when he does a task, he's automatically thinking of the next step or the next task that we need to be in. And it's just amazing that we can have such a large group, you know, deep into the, you know, New York City, the New York State, and, you know, all the neighbors that we have, that we all can reach out and talk to one another and have that level of dialogue. And I think that's what it is. You know, he's calling it a forum for a reason, because it's even though you have to have structure and an agenda there, the benefits is what happens on the breaks, what happens in the evenings, and what happens when we start talking to one another.
We really appreciate both of you taking the time to kind of share these views with us today, because I think there are a lot of people that have kind of been on the outskirts of the consortium and maybe haven't realized where the value lies. And it's important that those of you that have been there kind of from the beginning are able to kind of give them that understanding that this organization is different. It's really focused on practical problem solving rather than policy or other things that tend to create those walls and divisions between the various segments. And I've been very impressed. I've been involved with the consortium, as Tom mentioned, since 2005. And I was able, as publisher of Emergency Management magazine, to kind of go across the country and see what everybody was doing. And in my mind, I have not seen any organization that is able to do more with fewer resources to leverage the real strength of the people on both the government side and the industry side to solve real problems. And I think that being able for us to share that with people that might not have had the experiences that you've had and get them to think about becoming more actively involved, I think is going to be really important to our community. So I know Tom thanks you, I thank you, and we really appreciate you sharing your insights.
I'm proud to do that. My relationship with the All Hazards Consortium has been a true highlight. It is always provided a safe space to discuss all kinds of problems and solutions and how to. There is no obstacle that is too small to discuss or too large to discuss, and that's what I like about it. And I like Bud, and I like Tom, and I.
It's a great community. It's really a great community of like-minded people that really care about getting this right. And I think what we've been able to do through the consortium is to find people in those other segments that care as much about it as you do in government. And without that, this wouldn't work.
Absolutely.
This is about regardless leaving the turf outside the room, checking the ego at the door and coming in and saying, what's the use case? What are we really trying to solve and how far can we go today? And then build on that. And because you don't get it all at once, it doesn't just all resolve itself. But I think what I've seen over the years is that this community now has, I think, an easier way of bringing their problems and their use cases to each other's attention. And then finding that somebody else has that piece of information that they don't have, or has an asset that they don't have, or knows a person who can make a difference. And those things together really make a difference in the way we approach everything. So again, I appreciate your time. And Tom, are you still on the line here with us? He always ducks when I'm there, but listen, I appreciate that. I think we've got what we need to go. And I think this is going to play very well with the audience that Tom wants to get this in front of, because there's always that education effort to do. I mean, let's face it, part of what the deal is with this community is people change roles every couple of years usually. And you have new people coming into the community that don't have the history and background that you guys have. And I think it's important for us to be able to bring them up to speed as quickly as we can and say, this is important. Pay attention to what's going on in this community, and it will help you in your job, and it'll help you do a better job of protecting your industry or your region. So thank you very much. And I guess we'll drop because Tom's probably been dragged into some other emergency at the moment, but we'll keep in touch, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Can you color my hair?
I'll work on that. I'll talk to the editor.
Do that, or take some of hers and put it on mine. That would be great.
All right, you guys be good, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Happy New Year and be
It's
safe.
great seeing you again.